Hello everyone, my name is Tian Hatting. I am originally from South Africa, but the last 20 years been living and working in Southeast Asia. I spent 14 years in China and the last 6 years in Vietnam as a ESL teacher and an IELTS instructor.
I would like to start off with a disclaimer. First of all, I'm not a scholar or an academic by any stretch of the imagination. I did study Hebrew formally at the University of South Africa for 3 years, but it was not my major. And lastly, I believe I am of average intelligence, maybe even a bit below average, which doesn't make me a candidate for a teaching position at a university, but it does help me to identify with common folk who would like to study biblical Hebrew. At the turn of the millennium in 2000, I visited Israel, and on my return started presenting biblical Hebrew courses for laymen at our local technical college. Um, this proved to me that it is possible to present the language to anybody, um, and that ordinary people are able to grasp the language and read the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, in the original language. In 2002, I moved to mainland China to pursue a career as an ESL teacher. I later established my own English training center, but we also presented courses for um, beginners in biblical Hebrew. In preparation for these classes, I realized that the existing textbooks that were available for academic study were not suitable for the target population that I had in my class. And I therefore started making notes for the students. Um, the main objective of these notes were to bring the students directly into contact with the Hebrew Bible right from the beginning. For example, there were no man-made exercises. In the end, volumes 1, 2, and 3 um, contains 6,223 examples, which I use as exercises and opportunity for the students to do self-testing. These examples are directly from the Hebrew Bible, and it made the students feel much more uh, familiar with the Hebrew Bible. Another objective of the series was that the volumes should be suitable for self-study and cover everything needed for a student to eventually be able to read the Hebrew Bible by him or herself. Volume 1 deals with general grammar and the strong verbs. Volume 2, weak verbs and irregular verbs. And Volume 3 with the doubly weak verbs and also some other general aspects. Volume 4 is intended for more advanced students, and that deals with textual criticism. And in Volume 5, we have dealt with 400 examples from the Hebrew Bible showing that the current English translations do not always indicate correctly and clearly what exactly the original Hebrew is showing us.
So let's now have a more detailed look of the features found in this series.
So let's now look at the unique features in this series. First of all, as mentioned, there are over 6,000 examples from the Hebrew Bible in volumes 1 to 3. This one, for example, is chapter 10.10, which deals with what happens when we add a suffix onto a plural noun. And there are numerous examples given. Students can use this as an exercise and also for memorization purposes. For example, close the Hebrew, and when you see the English, test yourself and see if you can remember the Hebrew, or otherwise you can close the English, look at the Hebrew and see if you can remember how to translate the Hebrew. This is one of the most prominent unique features in this series. Another unique feature in this series is that all verbs and nouns that are used in the text are accompanied by the frequency with which they appear in the Hebrew Bible. Here, for example, we have speak, davar, and it is indicated that it appears 1,135 times in the Hebrew Bible. Shamar, keep, 469 times. Reign, malach, 350 times. In other textbooks, verbs and nouns and other words are used, and we have no idea how often we are going to encounter these words while studying Hebrew. In this series, we know exactly which words are more common and which words are very rare. And when deciding on memorizing verbs and nouns, the student will be able to know which words would be more useful to memorize. In other words, those with a very high frequency. In my opinion, one of the most exciting unique features in this series would be the paradigm charts. This is a standard paradigm chart, as can be found in any other textbook. It's in the form of a synopsis. In other words, all the forms or possible forms that could be found in the Hebrew Bible are given, and textbooks usually give us these paradigm charts for the most common of the verb classes. The disadvantage of a synopsis is that we don't know which of the forms actually do appear in the Hebrew Bible. So in this series, we have also given paradigm charts of examples that are actually found in the Hebrew Bible. In this instance, we can, for example, see that in the Hiphil, the three masculine singular does appear, you can go to chapter 27.9 to find the details of this verb, and this shows us that these forms do actually appear in the Hebrew Bible. This is very useful when we get to the more rare verb classes, for example, the doubly weak verbs and the irregular verbs. And in those cases, we in this series didn't even show a synopsis. We only showed the actual forms that do appear in the form of a paradigm chart. Appendix 9 is another unique feature that you can't find in other textbooks. We have taken the verb roots of verbs occurring 100 or more times in the Hebrew Bible, and we have selected the most common and a number of rare forms to illustrate as many of the grammatical concepts dealt with in the main text as possible. In volume 1 we are dealing with strong verbs, and in volumes 2 and 3 all the other verb classes also have an appendix 9. So this is what appendix 9 looks like. Let's look at the verb shamar, for example, occurring 469 times in the Hebrew Bible, so definitely worthwhile studying. And then we list a number of forms that are found in Genesis. For example, the most common one, shamar, and we pass the verbs kal, perfect, 3ms. One of the English meanings would be he kept, and you can find that in Genesis 37 verse 11. And then for Exodus and for a number of books in the Bible, we will list the forms that are most commonly found for this verb shamar. Another unique feature can be found in Appendix 10. As stated before, our objective with this series was to get students involved in the actual Hebrew Bible right from the beginning, and Appendix 10 is well suited to help us in this objective. So this is what Appendix 10 looks like. What we've done is selected a number of phrases, sentences from the Hebrew Bible, which would help us to understand as many as possible of the grammatical principles that we have dealt with previously in this volume. This is, for example, from Genesis. We took Genesis 1 verse 1, and for every word in the verse we have given references to the main text. So if you want to know what Bereshit is all about, you can go to chapter 17 and chapter 4 as well as chapter 9, and you will find out what the grammar is that is involved in this word. Here, for example, we have a weak verb which students are not familiar with at the moment, so we have just indicated that it's a weak verb, and that will be dealt with in later volumes. This is a noun, so in chapter 12 you can see how the article is used, and in chapter 10 you will actually find this noun dealt with in detail. Appendixes 1 to 8 present the student with a wealth of information, making it easier for him or her to study. For example, Appendix 1, we have lists according to the verb classification. In this case, strong verbs. You can see that word lists are always according to the frequency, so students know which words are most common and should be focused on first. In this case, the strong verbs are speaking with the highest frequency, and then keep, reign, visit, and so on. Further down in Appendix 1, you will get to the weak verbs. Chapter 30 deals with the 1 Aleph verbs, and we have again listed all the verbs according to their frequencies. In all the word lists in this series, we include words that occur 10 or more times in the Hebrew Bible. And as you can notice, we have opted for a very large Hebrew font, especially so that students have no problems in reading the vowels. In this case, we have two groups in this verb class. Those where the imperfect take the holem, and those that are imperfects like one gitterel, and these are all the verbs that appear 10 or more times in the Hebrew Bible. The next group will be 1 Aleph, and so on.
With that, we come to the end of the discussion of the unique features in volumes 1 to 3. Volumes 4 and 5 I will deal with in a separate video, and I would also like to mention that these textbooks are out in the public domain. They are available free of charge, and I am the sole copyright holder of these publications, so legally there is no problem with downloading these volumes.
I would like to mention that all the books that I have published are available free of charge. These are electronic versions that are suitable for any device, and you are welcome to download them. To find a link, contact me on Facebook or on YouTube. Simply search for Christian Hatting and you will be able to get hold of me. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the icon in your bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and goodbye.